Hello everyone, welcome back, and today in this video I wanted to talk more about Hansi Flick's first 4 games in charge of Barcelona because I don't think result-wise we could have expected anything more from that, but also just the way that he's playing, that 7-0 result especially, just incredible. To see Barcelona play like that, it's just such a breath of fresh air. It's been amazing, and I'm very excited for the season. So I just wanted to talk about the first 4 games. I wanted to talk about some of the key takeaways from we've seen, the way that Barcelona have played, and the way that Hansi Flick has utilized some of the players and actually gotten the most out of them. Like I said, it's just the first 4 games, but I just wanted to go over those positives. I also wanted to talk about some injury updates and maybe when we're going to see some Barcelona players coming back into the squad, which will be a great boost to Hansi Flick's unit, and I hope he'll get the best out of those players as well. So I'm just really excited, and I really want to see Hansi Flick continue to play. I mean, international break, it's just so boring right now because Barcelona were off to such a good start. You did not want to see them stop playing. So I wanted to talk about the first 4 games and basically what we've seen from Hansi Flick so far. And the first takeaway from Hansi Flick that I've noticed is the fact that he's taking risk. Every single game, he's been playing with 4 attackers, and that was not something that we were used to with Barcelona. Obviously, it was more likely to be 4 midfielders and 2 attackers. And I think just that setup of having so many attackers, it makes your team look a lot more difficult to play against. It makes it look dynamic. It's not as easy to read because I think sometimes when Barcelona would play against a team, it seemed very easy to go up against Barcelona because you'd have Lamine Yamal and Lewandowski trying to make something work, and then the midfield, you were trying to find balance there because you didn't really play with a defensive midfielder. But Hansi Flick, I think in the first 4 games, he's proven, I mean, obviously Marc Bernal was a big miss. That was just terrible. That injury was horrible. But I don't think you have to play with a true defensive midfielder if it means that, you can try and outscore the opponent. Not just win a game 1-0. I think it's a breath of fresh air to see Barcelona attacking for 90 minutes. And that, for me, has been the most important standout for Hansi Flick is that even when Barcelona were winning 5-0, he was still pushing his players on to get another goal. And, that's what you want to see because a club like Barcelona, with the players that they have at their disposal, they should not be scraping by in La Liga with 1-0 wins. Sometimes it's going to be difficult. Some games it's, a team, an opponent that's parking the bus. It's going to be difficult to break them down. But with the way that Hansi Flick is setting the team up, it's risky, right? Sometimes they're open to counters. Maybe their midfield defensively, they don't have as many players getting back. But I just think the work ethic that the players are putting in, the physical aspect that I also wanted to talk about, but just the risk that Hansi Flick is playing with, that's so nice to see for me. And I feel like that's been the main standout for me because he's also using La Masia players. It's not like he has a completely healthy squad, but he's still getting a 7-0 result, which I think that's just such a positive impact in the way that he's set Barcelona up so far. So I've really liked that aspect, and I think that's been one of the main standouts for me. And then I also quickly wanted to talk about the physical aspect that he's brought because I really think that's going to improve Barcelona in the long run because as we saw in a lot of big European games, it's been since Valverde, since Setien, since Ronald Koeman, since Xavi. It wasn't just one manager. I think it's been a long spell of games where Barcelona and European competitions, it just looks like they get outrun, they get outworked. And of course, Barcelona on the ball, there aren't many better teams in the world, but in this day and age, you have to also be physically prepared for every single match. And that's what Hansi Flick, before he joined Barcelona, a lot of fans were excited to see that change. And like I said, it's just the first 4 games. But I've really been impressed with the shape that Barcelona players have been in and the effort that they're putting in for 90 minutes. That's been great to see. But on the downside, hopefully, because Barcelona's squad is relatively thin, in my opinion, I hope that doesn't harm Barcelona because, of course, they haven't exactly... It's not that Xavi was lazy, right? He wasn't... Like, the players were still running. They were still practicing all the time. But I just think Hansi Flick, he's asking more of these players, right? Which is what you wanted to see because for Barcelona to get this to the ceiling that we want to see them at, they're going to have to put more into every single match and every single training session. So that's great. In the long term, that's great for Barcelona. But there is an adaptation period, I think. And so I hope Barcelona players are able to make it into this next step of their fitness without getting injured all the time. And I think I was worried about one player in particular, of course, Pedri, because of all the injury problems that he's had. And it seemed like any time he was really sprinting for a couple games at a time and putting in a lot of effort, he would be getting injured. So far, he's been okay, which is great. Great to see. I hope he has a very healthy season. That's going to be an important piece of Barcelona's season, of course. But that's one thing that I'm a little bit worried about is because Barcelona's squad, it is a little bit thin. And I think if he's asking a ton from these players, you hope that they're able to stay healthy. I really hope that's the thing. But as I said, there's no negative really to that because you want players to be physically ready for every single game and be able to give 100% for 90 minutes because that's what wins you games in dominant fashion, right? And that's how Hansi Flick destroyed Barcelona 8-2 because not even just the skill level, but just the physicality that they had. It was a completely different level. It was grown men against kids. That's what the 8-2 game was. So Not that I'm expecting every single game to be 7-0, but it's nice when Barcelona, they're sprinting. They have so much effort for 90 minutes. It's not like they're just kind of passing the ball around and maybe letting the game come to them. They're taking the game, right? They want every single minute to be them attacking, dominating. So I've really liked that so far, and that's another big aspect of what I've seen from Hansi Flick so far. And another aspect that I wanted to talk about was your man management and basically getting the best out of your players. And as I said, it's 4 games into the season, but I wanted to make this video talking about the first 4 games, so I wanted to talk about what we've seen so far. And for me, the biggest example of getting the best out of your players is Rafinha, because he looks like such a good player right now. And of course, under Xavi, he was still very effective. He was great. He was still one of the most important players for Barcelona, because without his 10 goals, 10 assists in a season, I don't think Barcelona would have won in his first season in La Liga, because he was great in that season. And then, of course, in the Champions League against PSG, he showed up. He was the player that he put his foot in that game. He was definitely the main reason why Barcelona almost made it through. They easily could have. I don't want to get into that. But basically, Rafinha's been so good, right? These first 4 games of the season, he's been such an impactful player. And I think this free role that Hansi Flick has gifted him, it's put all of his trust in Rafinha. It looks like he is one of his favorite players. And of course, Rafinha has paid that back, because he got a hat-trick, his first hat-trick for Barcelona. And that was 4 games into the season under Hansi Flick. So obviously, he's done very well to get the best out of him. I think also Lewandowski, he looks like a new player. I was wanting him to honestly be sold to Saudi Arabia or somewhere else. Just didn't want Barcelona to be starting him every single game. But he looks like a different player with 3 other attackers on the field, and they're playing towards his strengths. So I think Hansi Flick has definitely gotten the most out of his players. He's also pushed Pedri back. I know some Barca fans wanted Pedri to play as a number 10. I think as an 8, that's where I see him best, because then he can be basically all aspects of the game come through him, which I really like. I like him getting a ton of touches and playing through the pockets. It's better for someone maybe like Dani Olmo or like Pablo Torre, someone like that. Even though I think Pedri can definitely do the job there, he's still very good in that role. But I think as an 8, when everyone's healthy, that's where I like to see him best. And Hansi Flick has also done that. But Rafinha, for me specifically, he has been so good. And I think Rafinha and Dani Olmo together, switching on the right or switching from the left to the middle, that's been so effective, because Rafinha, of course, on the ball, he's great as well. But I think those runs in behind, it's just such a breath of fresh air for Barca, because sometimes they would lack that movement. They would lack the runner in behind, because you'd have so many players on the ball that just want to get a ton of touches and want to be the player to provide the pass. But sometimes you need a runner. And Rafinha, he's done so well. The goals that he scored in the last game were all because he was making runs in behind, and his players were able to pick him out, right? And so Rafinha, he's been so good, and I've really liked the way that Hansi Flick has used him, because I think a lot of Barca fans, myself included, I did want to see Rafinha in the middle, but I just didn't think it ever would really happen under Xavi. And I don't want to talk badly about Xavi. I think he did take the club as far as he could take them. He did great in his spell. He did win a couple of trophies for Barca, and it was in a difficult moment. So I don't want to talk badly about him, but I think Hansi Flick, when I talked about my first key takeaway, was that he's taking risks. And I think that's what I've really liked to see, because Rafinha as a number 10, I think some coaches maybe would have played it safe, just played him as a direct left winger, which I don't think that gets the best out of his strengths. And I think Xavi did try to do that. Sometimes it would work relatively well, like I said in the game against PSG, where he was still making runs in behind, but he just looks so comfortable in this central position, and it's just getting the most of it. And of course, Lamine Yamal has to be starting as a right winger. So then to move Rafinha into the middle, and then also swapping with Dani Olmo, that's been great, and that's been dynamic. And I talk about dynamic a lot, but it just seems like Barcelona, they're unpredictable now, which I think it adds another element. It makes it difficult to play against Barca. And with all the players that they have at their disposal, that's what you want to happen. So Hansi Flick, the way that he's used Rafinha, he's revitalized Lewandowski, at least in the first 4 games. I think he's been impressive. And Dani Olmo, of course, it seemed like Hansi Flick definitely did want him to join in the summer. And it seems like, especially in the first 2 games under Dani Olmo, he's been amazing as well. So I've really liked the way that Hansi Flick, he's gotten the most out of his players. And then also, collectively, they've been playing so well. Another thing that I've really liked with Hansi Flick is he's working with what he has. He's still trusting La Masia. And I think, one of the main reasons Xavi was fired was because he basically didn't seem like he trusted the squad that he had at his disposal, right? Well, Hansi Flick, I've never gotten that vibe. As I said, it's only been 4 games in the season, so you hope that continues to stay true. But I just really like the way that he's answered press conferences, and the way that he's acting on the pitch as well, I think is very nice, because I think Xavi would lose his head so often. Again, I don't want to talk badly about him. I don't think just to compliment Hansi Flick you have to downplay what Xavi did, but I just like the composure that he has on the touchline. And even when Barcelona were winning 5-6, 7-0, it didn't seem like he was gloating or anything. He was just still focused on the task at hand. So I've really liked that. I've also liked the way it seems like he interacts with the players very well. So I've just liked overall the fact that he's working with what he has and making the most out of this injury crisis as well, because Barcelona, they have a lot of key players injured, right? We all know that. And I also wanted to talk about the injury updates and when some players are coming back. But for now, Hansi Flick has done so well. And as I said, I've really liked what we've seen from him. Every time the camera's on him, I think he's doing very well. He looks very focused. It just seems like the vibes at Barcelona right now are completely different. And I've really enjoyed that aspect as well. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Barcelona, they look so happy when they're playing on the field. And as I said, I wanted to talk about the injury updates because there's still a lot of players out. And Fermin Lopez, unfortunately, he did get injured during the Spanish national team camp. And it looks like he's going to be out for about 3 weeks or a month. And he hadn't started a game yet for Barcelona, but I do think he's going to be a very important piece of Barcelona this season, especially under Hansi Flick. I think he's a player that Hansi Flick will love to have. And then also Frenkie de Jong, I don't know if this is true because I actually have no clue when Frenkie de Jong is coming back. I don't remember the last time he's played for Barcelona. I think it was the Classic. Yeah, it was the Clasico. Valverde, he tried to take a long shot from 40 yards out. Frenkie de Jong, he just didn't go in strong enough, and unfortunately, it was just a really bad twist of his ankle. But, I mean, there was a possibility that he was going to be back for the Euros. But he's not even back in September. So I don't know what's happened with that. There have been some reports that he didn't want to get surgery on his ankle, and hopefully in the long term that doesn't hurt his career. I don't really know, right? But there are some reports coming back that he is going to be available after the international break. Not available, but at least coming back into training. And then hopefully in the next couple weeks we would see him potentially play for Barcelona. But, man, we just do not know when he's coming back. And, you know, I think a lot of Barca fans, maybe just given the fact that his wages are very high, they want him sold. But I really want to see Frenkie de Jong do well under Hansi Flick. So I hope he's given that opportunity. And, yeah, I really want to see him come back because he's such a great player on the ball. And I'd really like to see Hansi Flick get the most out of him and see what he can do and maybe get Frenkie de Jong back to his best, back to what we saw at Ajax in that 2019 season. That Champions League run that they had was incredible. Frenkie de Jong was one of the most important pieces. So there is still a great player in there, and I really want to see Xavi be able to coach him. And then, who else? Ansu Fati does seem like he is back. He is back in training, so that's great, and hopefully he would be available in the next start of the game. So I think in a couple weeks he might be playing for Barca, which would be very great to see. I was disappointed to see him get injured in the preseason because I just want to see him do well and get back to his best. I know some Barca fans maybe say we should just cash in. I do not want to give up on a player as talented as Ansu Fati just yet, and hopefully Hansi Flick can make the most of him. I did see something on Twitter that Hansi Flick was at a Brighton game last season. That's a good sign in my opinion. Maybe that wasn't just to watch Hansi Fati. Maybe he was in town, but he could have been to watch Hansi Fati. So I really want to see Hansi Fati under Flick. I think he'll do very well. And then also Gavi does seem like he's going to be back in November. Definitely do not want to rush him back. I mean, give him as much time needed, but it's nice to see him on the field and getting touches with the ball. That's just so great to see. And then Ronald Araujo and Andreas Christensen, it does seem like they might not even be back until December. I don't know about Christensen. I think that's more in the air, but I don't think he was registered. So I'm not sure if he's really able to play until the start of the new year anyways. I don't exactly know how that works, so I don't want to say for certain, but it does seem like Ronald Araujo and Christensen are going to be out for at least a couple months. I think Araujo will be available in January, hopefully, if everything goes well. Christensen, I have a feeling it would be around that same time, hopefully. But yeah, that center back crisis, it could be difficult for Hansi Flick because right now it's Kubarsi and Inigo Martinez and Sergio Dominguez. I think he did look pretty decent when he came on, but the game was about 5-0 when he came on, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt. But I think Sergio Dominguez, hopefully he can be counted on a little bit. And I think Hansi Flick, he can make it work. I think maybe Koundé could go to center back, and then Hector Ford could start right back if that's exactly what you need. But like I said, Hansi Flick, I've just been really excited with the way that he's gotten the most out of this team, even with some key players missing. But as I said, there are some players that hopefully soon will be coming back into the first team, and we can see them play it for Barcelona this season because I'm definitely missing some of those players like Ansu Fati. Just going to be so nice to see him back at the club. And then because it's international break, you see some rumors that maybe aren't worth talking about, but I still wanted to engage with the Nico Williams to Barcelona situation because some Barca fans, I think after a couple games, I mean, of course, every Barca fan was so excited to bring Nico Williams to the club, right? They thought it was going to be such a good signing. But now I'm seeing stuff on Twitter that, Rafael Leao or Kvaratskhelia would be a better fit for Barca, and that's who they should go after next summer. I think if Nico Williams is available for Barcelona, they should absolutely try and sign him. I think he was so good at the Euros, but also I think some people are forgetting it's just one. People are saying it's just one good tournament. I watched a lot of Let me be honest. Not a lot of Bilbao games, but every single time I watched him play, I thought he was great. And for me, there aren't many better fits in that left wing position over Nico Williams because especially with Spain, Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams on the wings, it was just so unpredictable. It was just great going forward. It was fun, exciting to watch. And I think that's a player that you want to bring into Barcelona. But it's not a player that you have to break the bank for. If he wants to stay at Bilbao, completely respect that. But some Barca fans are basically turning and saying, no, I didn't really want him anyways. Let's be honest. I think we did. I think we wanted to see Nico Williams at Barcelona. And in the future, if that's exactly what happens, I would be still very happy about it. And we'll just have to wait and see. Obviously, these rumors are just coming out during international break because there's not too much to talk about. But I still just want to talk about some Barca fans' response to those rumors. But as always, thank you very much for watching my video. I really do appreciate it. And I apologize I haven't really made a video because it's international break. These things are just, 2 weeks of, I don't even watch the international games to be honest because it's the Nations League qualifiers. I'm not really super interested in those. So I'm just ready for Barcelona to be back playing again because it was just so exciting watching them play before the international break. And yeah, but I'll try and continue to make some videos during this week and hopefully have some stuff to talk about because at Barcelona, there's always something to talk about. So as always, thank you very much and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend and VISCA BARCA as always. See you all later. Peace.